What a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, how dare you, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Paul Hall, 10th Man, Flatsoid, Brian, Chocolate Sane, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Good morning.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning, Vietnam.
Buenos dias.
Hey, Vietnam.
Dias.
How's it, Joshua?
Oh, that was a very nice warm welcome to this Monday morning live show. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curve?
Not from my tangent plane.
Not even the geometry as it goes.
Hello. Hey, Arwin. Oh, good to have you, Arwin.
No,
To be here.
Bit of an in-joke. Say that again, Arwin. Is who here?
No, just said the full panel today. Good to be back.
Yeah, it's good to have a little gap. The weekend shows. Brand new Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show goes out on the Nathan Oakley channel rather than a live show. So pre-records over the weekend. But it means we get a bit of an enthusiastic bump on a Monday morning.
Yep.
So the in-joke that we just had from 10th Man was about tangent planes. So on Friday's show, we had Fight the Flat Earth come, and he was talking about using geodetic surveying methods, and I asked him specifically if they're measuring tangent planes, which they are, and he wouldn't, just dodged the question for about 10 straight minutes, and then later described how when measuring a tangent with their straight line, i.e. assuming the curved surface that they're measuring over, my point in asking him why they're measuring a tangent plane, i.e. begging the question. But yeah, they just dodge and dive around these questions, don't they? Until they accidentally let slip that they're going to be measuring a tangent. What an idiot.
Yeah, plane geometry.
Right. Yeah, they make it. They're constantly derailing their own basic methods because they have to. But yeah, they just get back to their old habits again, you know? Once we flat earthers leave them alone by confronting them with actual facts and physics, yeah, then they just fall back to their old habits and just start asserting it all over again, like nothing ever happened.
Yeah,
We don't have a tangent. Oh, wait, yeah, we do have a tangent. Oh, wait, we're not supposed to say that, right? Oh, there's no flat earthers here, it's okay.
Yeah, can't you just leave us to beg the question in peace, you bloody flat earthers? All we want to do is assume our outcome and then talk nonsense for about 10 minutes, and at the end of it say therefore sphere, which is the thing we assumed at the beginning, but can't you just leave us to it?
Well, they've been getting away with it for years now.
One of their tactics is at the moment is I've heard Tim Osmond speak in the past 24 hours on one of Ranty's hangouts, and he is mentioning terms to do with geodetic surveying and his supposed observations that are far more geodetic surveying than he was saying before we were speaking about things like Cartesian coordinate systems. So he didn't know anything about any of these things until we started teaching them to people, or not so much teaching them to people, but kind of enlightening people to what they were and showing people what they were. And now he's saying things like, yes, we were doing this thing, and it's just XYZ Cartesian, and he's throwing out these things, and then a few minutes, very shortly afterwards, within kind of 30 seconds, somehow in some way asserting with conviction that it's a globe. You know, this kind of thing. So you have people out there throwing out these terms and then using them within the same paragraph to do with things being definitely a globe. You know, this is the kind of assassination. They're trying to assassinate the fact that geodetic surveying is not surveying a globe. You know, they're trying to assassinate that fact. You know, so it's pretty pathetic.
Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Not my watch.
Not on
Helium
your-
balloons.
No, on the Earth, not on your watch.
Nice one. I feel strapped
Not
now.
from, sorry.
My watch is digital.
Not on your watches. Earth-based variety.
Not from looking up at the sky from the Earth.
Well, helium
What
balloons
about the
are
stars
upstairs.
rotating in two different directions?
Earth-based
wait.
variety. Earth-based, not star-based.
Helium balloons debunk axial rotation.
We'll find out, won't we? So just for the audience's benefit, Flatzoid's going to be launching a helium balloon. I don't know how he's going to stabilise it, but I guess we'll find out. But it should be deviating at 15 degrees an hour, according to the claim that we have a Coriolis effect on Earth, because Earth's turning underneath stuff at 15 degrees an hour. I mean, apparently that's why the sun's moving. No, well, yeah, but that's not the case now, is it? Oh, dear. Any more on axial rotation? Anybody in Discord? Feel free.
Don't they throw in here angular momentum or conservation momentum, which has nothing to do with Coriolis?
Who, the people in the trenches? Yeah, they're all dumb. They don't understand that you need to be the observer on a non-inertial reference frame to have Coriolis effect. Conservation of momentum's got sod all to do with Coriolis effect, which would be you observing something seem to drift from a spinning reference frame, like a roundabout. You know, you throw the ball's actually travelling straight, but you continue to rotate underneath and it looks like it curves. That's Coriolis. That's what they claim Earth does. I.e., you rotate underneath on a spinning Earth, according to their claim, and stuff carries on in a straight line, like this helium balloon is going to do, right? You only have to leave it in the air and it's going to drift away from you at 15 degrees an hour, right, Flatzoid?
Correct.
He's spraying.
Let's move on. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Nope.
No.
Although apparently it does kind of look like a fiery ball that seems to spin. It's very confusing.
Well, if you and I
But,
together assume that we're circling it, we can probably worship that fiery ball together.
Well, but that's the confusing part, you know, just like the moon. Because I didn't expect this, you know, I looked at the sun and it just kind of looks like this hole through which this incredible light is coming. Doesn't have, to me, doesn't look very spherical at all. The moon, you know, it does. But yeah, that's also very likely to be some kind of a light-based phenomena, hologram, or whatever you're going to call it. But the sun, well, upon closer inspection, apparently it does kind of seem like a weird fiery-like ball that even rotates, not just rotates perpendicular.
I would agree
Very
with what you
weird.
said before. There was a time when I was looking at the sun through like a couple of panes of glass at a bus stop, and it acted like a pretty good filter. And I'm staring, like I could just stare at it. And what you said before kind of resonated with me. It's like it looks like a big hole that there's light coming out of that's just moving across the sky.
Right.
Doesn't look like a ball, doesn't look like anything physical. It just looks like a big hole that's just moving around the sky. Now, I know that sounds crazy, but that's what it looks like when you look at it.
Right, I totally agree. But apparently, and Paula kind of confirmed this for me, she did the study, that if you go and look at it with a telescope and all the proper filters and really get the detail, then it kind of does look like a weird fiery ball with kind of black edges also. This was an odd little detail.
Well, see, it might
Yeah,
be
there's
said.
this suggestion of it being a fiery ball, even though there's no physical proof of that other than the appearance of it. Very weird.
Well, have you seen a fiery, let's say, iron ball on top of something cold? How the steam pushes it around.
I can barely hear you. Planetoid.
Never mind.
He's got his mask on and he's painting and he's asking the question.
Something for the audience. The globe model, it always seems to be the complete opposite in so many ways from reality. You know, we experience flat and motionless, but we're told we're on a curved and rotating, right? All these, and it seems everything to do with it is the opposite. Now, they say through the use of spectroscopy, because they can't say spectroscopy, they don't know what it is, right? They'll tell you that that the sun is made of hydrogen, right? Now, besides all the other problems with that, the fact it's supposed to be gas in a vacuum, all the rest of it, the problem, the word hydrogen in ancient Greek means the maker of water, because hydrogen is part of water, right? This is what it means in Greek. That's where the word comes from. And the word helium comes from Helios, which is the Greek god of the sun. So in the heliocentric model, hydrogen is connected to the sun, and helium does kind of nothing. This is what they kind of, they don't give any. What does helium do? Just nothing. It just goes up and disappears. That's basically, they don't have anything to go with that. There's no helium cycle, and there's no hydrogen cycle outside of the water, outside of the cycle within water. But if you try and find a gas cycle, there's no evidence there. They're not telling you anything about a gas cycle, and there's no helium gas cycle that I can find any evidence of. But helium is connected to the sun in Greek, and hydrogen is connected to water. Yes, we're told by the heliocentric model that hydrogen is connected to the sun, although I know it is a combustion, but hydrogen is connected to the sun, and helium is just not connected to anything. And the fact that it's a combustant also is begging the question that the sun is a ball of fire or whatever. So it's all backwards. Everything they tell you is backwards.
So that ball of fire that they describe that moves across the sky, talking of inversions, you know, you're moving around it according to them. That thing that you see moving across the sky, you're moving around it, mate.
Oh yeah, that one as well.
But doesn't it appear to move around us because we're supposedly spinning?
Yeah, but that ultimately means we're moving around it. The very model's name is heliocentric, sun at centre.
Oh.
We're moving around it according to their rhetoric.
Moving around it while we're spinning and making it seem to move across the sky. Yet when you leave the ground, it's still moving. Yeah.
And the name heliocentric. Helio is from Helios. Helium is named after Helios. So once again, helium does nothing in their model. But yet, heliocentric model is their model.
So you're saying it should be hydrogen centric rather than heliocentric.
Yeah, the hydrocentric model.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, because the story is not making any sense. Because the fact that hydrogen is a combustant, and they say the sun is made of hydrogen, that adds to the whole ball of fire thing for them.
Well, hold on. That's not entirely true, though, because the ball of fire may seem like a ball of fire according to the official story, but there's actually a fusion reaction going on. And helium supposedly is exactly the stuff that is used for that. And not hydrogen.
Yeah.
There is hydrogen because that comes out of the fusion process. So, don't forget, the fiery ball is not actually a fiery ball. It's a giant perpetual nuclear explosion or something, blah, blah, blah. Remember?
So all this wants to come through a vacuum.
Yeah. But the thing about what Arwen is saying is like, yeah, there is something in that. But they haven't proven any of that. They've only shown some of this happening within reactors here on Earth. When you look for any natural helium cycle or hydrogen gas cycle, not the hydrogen within the water cycle, the only hydrogen cycle you'll get would be basically more or less almost the same as the hydrological cycle. So they don't ever connect helium to the sun. maybe theoretical physicists do. Well, whatever data they can get from whatever they can do in reactors. But that's still only kind of begging the question, isn't it? They don't know. How do they know what happens there?
Well, they did send a satellite past it, and it scooped up a little helium, and they did a carbon dating, blah blah, or something in that direction on it, and then concluded exactly how the sun all has to work. So
Where was that satellite
I
operating?
stand corrected.
Oh, hold on. Where was that satellite operating?
It was probably installed on a plane, and they just called it a
You
satellite.
didn't go high enough. Where was that satellite again? Where?
My bad. Where'd you say that satellite was again, Owen?
It was very close to the sun, so it must have been a holographic satellite.
You just
'Cause that's
whenever
the
Owen
only way I can
Owen gets
imagine
challenged
anything
with
getting close to the sun.
whenever Owen gets challenged with baller questions based on his baller description in his baller rhetoric, which he's just detailing as not devil's advocate but just matter of fact, this is what they say. But when it comes to a challenge, he'll start replying with flat Earth answers. Have you noticed that? Well, it could be a hologrammatical sun, right? Okay.
No satellite. If the sun is holographic, which it probably is, in opposition to physical, then if you want to get close to it, and this is theoretically, then a holographic thing could seem to get closer to another holographic thing. That would be easier probably to achieve than in a physical object actually getting closer to a holographic thing, which is impossible. But anyways, it's getting a bit farcical now.
I've actually popped up Bible literalist.
No distance to the sun.
I've popped up Bible literalist sun video, so this is what's playing out now. Put it on 1.5 speed, so I'll leave it to play throughout the duration of the housekeeping. I've also put it in the chat, so if you want to go and subscribe today to Paula's channel, that's Bible Literalist, and check it out. Be here or be sphere on Bible Literalist channel. Link in the live chat. Moving on. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Well, it depends what your DV is, and could it stay your DV? Because it starts off with distance, I hear. Then it moves to redshift, and then eventually gravity is, I don't know, it's very confusing.
Dude,
Sorry.
don't make it so complicated. It's very simple.
It's an emergence
Gravity
force.
is the proof for the force of gravity. Come on.
That's
Can
it.
something have more than one cause?
You can have complex systems, yes. So you can have, if you describe something like plant growth, right? You're not going to describe a single cause, are you? But you'd individually identify individual causes, and you can build up a theory of plant growth based on scientific experimentation. So, saying that you've gone and have a single cause is specific. The reason we would challenge people on that is because when they have multiple causes in an experiment. So for the sake of argument, again back to exampling Fight the Flat Earth from Friday, his example was to say, yes, I've got scientific evidence of gravity. If distance, then redshift. Oh, by the way, I've got a fundamentalist religious presupposition that if distance, that also means gravity. So you point out that no, you're varying distance, not gravity, therefore you can't assert it as the cause. So then you have a substitution of if distance, then variation in the force of gravitational attraction, i.e. changing the dependent variable in this claim non-experiment. The old switcheroo for the dependent variable. And then you have a switcheroo from varying distance to actually varying gravity. So you Craig changed the independent variable. In other words, they will substitute in and out of whatever they claim, which is normally a non-experiment, to claim they've got scientific validity for a non-force force that you can think of as a force, but it's not actually a force. That's what they do.
And all this that's not even observed.
But it's not a force.
Exactly.
It's an emergent force.
Yeah,
Emergent
Craig
force,
managed
yeah.
to, Craig couldn't put out a complete hypothesis, so instead he put out a hypothesis.
Well, if you're to assert that if gravity, then you've got to be able to vary and manipulate it. The same when he begged the question of a turning Earth. The same principle applies. If the Earth is turning, and you're going to claim that's a hypothesis, which you did, well then you're going to be able to vary that which you're assuming is the cause of an effect. Now, I didn't let him get that far. There's no point. Once you've begged the question, you're just going to get stamped all over by me. So, if Earth's spinning, well, why are you assuming your outcome? That's a begging the question fallacy. I'm not going to let them formulate the full-on if P then Q, Q therefore P. Why should I let them turn it into a formal logical fallacy, affirming the consequent, when they've already begged the question? Because you can't claim it's a hypothesis. If Earth's turning, oh, you're going to vary that, are you? You're going to vary Earth turning? No, you've just got to presuppose it. It's just a begging the question fallacy.
Exactly, Nathan. I mean, just as you say, you can have like something like plant growth will have more than one cause, but you can't have more than one independent variable in your hypothesis, in your experiment. You can't have more than one independent variable, but you can have more than one cause for something. And to say that if Earth is turning, then this means that this is true is nonsense, because if you're trying to prove Earth is turning, or if you were going to find out that Earth was turning, you would see an effect that would drive you to find out the cause of that effect. And the cause of the effect might be because Earth is turning, but we don't see any effects that lead to that conclusion. Like, we don't see, if we were seeing things apparently deviating in the sky, then we could say, okay, there might be what is causing that, what could be happening that would cause things to apparently deviate in the sky, and that could be that the Earth is moving. But we don't see that. We don't see anything to lead us to the conclusion that the Earth is moving.
It's not a phenomena unless it's an observed phenomena. So first you've got to start by observing things seeming to drift at 15 degrees an hour, and then try and figure out the cause. Now, are you going to be able to scientifically validate the Earth turning? No, because you can't vary it. It's just got to be assumed. And the way they'll assume it is saying, as we've had star rotation detailed, if the Earth is turning, then I will observe, for the sake of argument, star rotation in the north and south hemisphere. I do observe star rotation in the north and south hemisphere, therefore Earth is turning. Well, if you're going to assert that, you've got to beg the question that you're travelling to a different hemisphere to make that assertion, i.e. assume the Earth's a sphere, and you've got to assume that the turning, the 15 degree an hour deviation that you're going to be observing, is caused because Earth's turning underneath you. Now, you're not going to be able to verify that scientifically, but you can just assume it and formulate it into a fallacy. And that's precisely what they do. Beg the question, formulate a fallacy.
They're just affirming the consequence.
That's what they did.
Yeah, they don't understand that you can't scientifically prove that the Earth is turning, because you can't, as a cause of something, because you can't vary it. They keep on saying they have this scientific proof of this. You can't scientifically prove it because you can't vary Earth turning, even if it was turning.
Right. So all they're left with is hypothesis.
Wait, the same guys that tell us that science doesn't prove things anymore. Right.
You want hypothesis?
But they'll tell us we have scientific proof that we're moving. Right.
Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
This is what he didn't want to be. He didn't want to answer this question, fight the flat Earth.
Okay, you're simply just waving over the hypothesis thing. So what is a hypothesis? Well, what does a hippo do? It sits in a river. It just asserts whatever it's like to assert. And then when you get too close to them, yeah, they might look very cute, but then they immediately rush you and go all at home. That's a hypothesis.
Anyway, Dr. Becky, we're still waiting for her.
Sorry, could I just say one thing before you move on, Nathan?
I was just going to ask 10th if there was any update on Dr. Becky, but go ahead, Brian.
Oh, no, sorry. No, you walked ahead. No, I thought you moved on to the next one. I thought this.
We will. I haven't forgotten you, by the way, Brian.
No worries.
Maybe not. Any evidence of the R value? Earth radius?
That would be a no.
No.
Black Swan.
How does Euclidean geometry work at R anyway?
Yeah, they just assume it.
Well, maybe if no straight lines exist, then maybe an R has to exist.
No, you're going to need a tangent. That's what their model's based on, Arwin. So, unlucky for them.
Yeah, but if you couldn't measure it through geometry, does that mean that it's impossible to establish?
Well, they've just got to assume that they're measuring a tangent, which is a straight line, to a curved surface.
Hmm.
It's starting to piss me off. How'd they get away with this so long?
Get away with it. People brainwash themselves, Neil. We just talked about this in the pre-show, right? We'll get to this. This is on point for Brian. Just hold that thought. We'll get to the end of the housekeeping shortly. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
No.
P waves and S waves.
Beautiful, beautiful.
The moon. No.
Molten iron core, P waves and S waves. No, they got it wrong when they drilled 8 miles down, and they didn't predict correctly what was in their path. So no, P waves and S waves. No.
But have they updated their scanning techniques since then? Have they actually adapted the models to their findings with that?
Models?
Well, maybe their predictions
based
of
on
like
models,
about
right?
7 miles was wrong, but maybe their predictions of about 4,000 miles is right. You know, you never know.
Hey, I've been
So
presented
it gets
evidence of molten iron
exponentially
core.
worse over distance. That much is known. But since they did test it based on models of prediction models of what's supposed to be down there based on the scans, did they even try to adapt their models of scan results to what they found afterward, or did they just leave it be?
I don't think they did, because that would require them to then go and verify it again and drill another 8 mile hole. And no.
Well, hey, I was given evidence of a molten iron core on Friday. They were able to melt salt, and it created a current. So with salt creating a current, that's the proof of a molten iron core. So that was the evidence I was given on Friday.
Is it salted caramel?
So
Caramel core.
If we have a molten iron core, then salt will melt and create a current.
Salted caramel.
Melts, creates a current, and therefore we have a molten iron core. Copy that.
Yeah, salted caramel core.
I just had a salted caramel. That's great, man.
Okay.
Damn, now I got to get another one.
So that concludes the housekeeping.
How deep? Hang on. How deep did you go to buy that?
To my boss's office. He's got him sitting in a jar.
You just stole them.
So not 8 miles then.
It seems that if we didn't if we the geologists and astrophysicists are the biggest begging the question people that there is in the world of science, because the astrophysicists deal with space and geologists deal with the ground, and none of them can prove anything they say. Yet they'll come out in droves to attack anybody that says anything about them being wrong.
Yeah, you got to protect your interests if you're a pseudoscientist and you're just making up stories, calling them hypotheses, but actually just not validating anything scientifically. They may even observe a few phenomena here and there, but yeah, they're going to attack that vehemently. We said this on the Friday show, actually. That's why we've got not a deluge, but certainly a noticeable number of PhDs coming to the table to defend their rhetoric and nonsense, and their ability to tell the general public what's what as scientists, right?
Yeah, I've had it out with 2 PhDs in the past month. One was a guy who was a retired PhD. I think he's from Pittsburgh, and he's a retired astrophysicist. And another lady called Sabine Hossenfelder, who's online, and she's a PhD astrophysicist. And both of them were attacking flat Earth, and I just started putting them straight. I didn't get any responses off of Sabine Hossenfelder, but I've had a full several video responses and email responses with this other guy. But it's the same old nonsense where you better believe what I'm saying, and you better with this one guy, it was you better bow down to my authority. It was that kind of a thing, And when that wasn't happening, it was ad hoc.
You can forget about Sabina responding. I posted a remark on that flat Earth video she made, and I said, I'd like for you to answer these questions, because she was citing the Flat Earth Society right from the get-go, right? Something we don't agree with at all. Shill. And all I got were trolls the whole weekend. I said, no, this is, I want to talk to Sabina, not you. And you can just see the trolls coming in. It was pretty interesting.
Yeah, the troll. She will
Yeah, but
allow
what do
the
you
trolls
expect her to
to
get?
defend her rubbish. Sorry, Neil.
I'm saying she probably Googled flat Earth, and you're not going to get any good stuff like you got 5 years ago. You're going to get the Flat Earth Society. So that's probably what she did, and she went from there.
Yeah, I made an hour and a half video response to her, and I did say that I said, look, it is not a direct attack on you personally, but it was an attack on her research. Her research and her claims. Because her research is very poor. If that's the best she could do, because she even got some of that stuff wrong historically.
I see. But they don't have to do a great job. It doesn't matter if they misrepresent us. And even if the us that they're misrepresenting in this case isn't us, it's the Flat Earth Society. It doesn't matter. Who's going to critique them? Us. Oh, right, yeah, we're going to be the voice that's heard. No, the voice of the 20 million trolls in the comment sections. And by trolls, I mean people who are there for their confirmation bias that Flat Earth is silly.
Yeah, they're going to defend it. And she won't have to do it.
Well, one of the questions that the trolls were talking about was Coriolis. And so I cited Neil deGrasse Tyson's football field goal kill. And I said, well, if the Earth is turning underneath the football, it's got to be turning underneath drones, airplanes, helicopters, etc. And on and on and on they go. And he brings in, well, how about all the snipers that have to account for it? And I respond, I go, look, I have a gun range. I have an Army Ranger sniper who shoots here. And he never accounted for it. And he took really long distance shots. And I've been shooting for a long time. I never account for it. And so then his thing was, yeah, but you're shooting a short distance, when actually I've shot long distance as well. And all you do is divide the feet per second of the bullet to supposed rotation of the Earth where you are on their made-up latitude and longitude. It doesn't work, because even if it did, then it would have to turn underneath anything in the air, such as an airplane, and it would shorten the flights. And
Precisely. I was just about to say, maybe take a different tact, because if someone was to assert to me, oh, right, well, what about the snipers? They're accounting for a 15-degree deviation as Earth is claimed to turn underneath the bullet. I would, with a wry smile, say, oh, so you accept that to have this effect, Earth is rotating under the bullet at 15 degrees an hour? So when I would do it, I'd use the Foucault pendulum or the gyroscope. Get them to concede that what you need is 15 degrees an hour deviation. But if they want to example the bullet, no worries. So you're asserting the bullet is drifting at 15 degrees an hour because Earth's rotating underneath. So Earth's rotating underneath, and as I look at an aeroplane, it's drifting at 15 degrees an hour. Absolutely identical effect, my friend. But we don't notice that in a plane with a massive hang time, or a bullet that's got a very short hang time with Earth turning underneath it. Well, we'd see that in a plane. So you use that to tie them to their claim, which is something they try and obfuscate away from. Oh, well, no, we wouldn't see 15 degrees an hour in the plane. It's conserving momentum. Well, what the hell's that got to do with my observation you're claiming I'll see a 15 degrees an hour deviation? That's got to be me observing the plane drifting. Not it not drifting because it's conserving something. According to you, I watched the bullet drift. Not really drift, it's going straight. I'm turning underneath. Well, if I'm turning underneath a bullet, I'm turning underneath a plane, and a helicopter, and a drone, and a hot air balloon, and anything else that's not attached to a claim to be spinning Earth. The only problem being, the only things that are ever actually asserted to have this drift are things that are in the air for half a second, like a football and a bullet. But that, by nature of the claim, necessitates anything not attached to have a 15 degrees an hour deviation, like an aeroplane. And as 10th Man's pointed out, that would shorten the flight times when travelling west. Because Earth's turning underneath the aeroplane, no one's experiencing that. Debunking the claim that Earth's turning underneath to give you 15 degrees an hour deviation. You don't see it, even though it's claimed to be in bullets.
Nathan, I actually got a question for the whole panel.
Go.
Have any one of you ever played golf before?
Yes.
And in that 10 seconds that the ball is in the air, has the Earth moved 4,600 meters away from the ball?
It should, if
No.
there's a 15 degrees an hour deviation. It doesn't, although generally speaking, they can go in a curved path.
Because 460 meters a second is quite a lot. And I mean, if a ball can stay in the air for 10 seconds, I think you'd realize you're hitting a ball out of the golf course.
It depends.
Does the ball stay up there?
It depends if you have a wicked slice, then you're causing your deviation and you're really mad.
No, he's right. You can cause the, no, he's right. You can cause the ball. Hold on. Let's get clarity. The curved path described by 10th Man, when you slice a ball and you get it right, the ball takes an actual curved path. Now that is not Coriolis. A description of Coriolis would be you seeing a ball. It doesn't have to be travelling straight. It can be doing whatever you like. But what you observe of the ball is a deviation that isn't actually occurring. You're observing something that isn't real. It's just you turning underneath. Likewise, if you're looking at a lamppost concreted into the ground from a roundabout, the drift you see in the lamppost isn't real drift. So it's the not real drift that is described in Coriolis. And if you're watching a ball seem to take a curved path, because you're claimed to turn underneath it on a spinning earth, then that's a not actual curve. Whereas if you slice the ball perfectly and it takes a nice curved path, it's an actual curved path. Not a not actual deflection, not an apparent deviation, which is what Coriolis is.
But the golfers who do a slice on purpose are assuming the earth will meet the ball at the right point and be in the fairway.
Yeah, they're not assuming that they're going to have to account for the not actual drift it's taking. Of course not.
Tiger Woods basically disproves the globe. You know what I mean? Another thing Tiger Woods does.
Well, it's anything...
You know what though?
Go on, Brian.
Sorry, I was going to say, just before Flatside said that, because I was going to say that if snipers were taking the rotation of the earth into account, then in general, everybody who uses a rifle and hunts for deer or boar or anything like that at a distance would always be trying to position themselves to shoot a boar or a deer or whatever they're trying to shoot ahead of one that's running east to west, because they'll be running slower. And the boar and the deer would have learned to try their best to always be running west to east because they're moving faster. You know, if that would be, these would be kind of the weird things that would be happening. People who shoot and hunt a lot would be, if they're using rifles at any kind of a distance, would definitely be trying to shoot always at something that's running east to west, because they'd have to be by proxy moving slower.
The only thing the snipers account for is drop because of velocity. Other things are wind, temperature, those things that also affect. So if you got a strong wind from one side, that will affect, and they already have the books on that. But nobody, and I mean nobody, over a good distance aims at where they think the target's going to be, like 50 feet, 30 feet, 20 feet, 100 feet ahead of it, and say, oh, I'll shoot here because by the time the bullet gets there, the deer will get there. No one does this crap.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it would be a thing. You know, I don't do that myself. No, I know how to shoot, but I'm not into hunting or any of that. But it would be a thing amongst hunters. I mean, I know people who've hunted for years, and I had a good friend of mine who hunted for years, and it's like they never did this. I mean, everyone would be trying to position themselves so they're shooting at a deer or something that's moving east to west. You know, because you want every advantage. You know, but it would be something that would be inherent from back in ancient times, that everyone would be trying to shoot things moving east to west. Yeah, but it's not.
What you're essentially saying is, if we had an Earth that was turning underneath as a non-inertial spinning reference frame, and we observed Coriolis drift at 15 degrees an hour for things that were in the inertial reference frame, i.e. not attached to a spinning Earth, then it would be blatantly obvious. It would be a thing, as Brian puts it. You'd have to worry about it, Because it would be blatantly bloody obvious, because things would be drifting away from you the second they left the surface of a spinning Earth at 15 degrees an hour. Oh wow, $50 super chat from Retro Bill. Let's see if I can get it on the smaller screen so I can actually read the text size. And then we'll move on to Brian's bit that he wanted to go over before we started the show. So, if Coriolis was real, the coffee I spilled on my crotch the other day would have never reached its painful target. Right, you'd have had a 15 degrees an hour deviation of the coffee as it made its way towards your crotch. Right. Thanks for the super chat, Retro Bill. Really appreciate it. Okie dokie. Also, Al Junkie says Tiger Woods hit ballers into the flatmosphere. Thank you very much for the super chat, Al Junkie. Really appreciate your support. Right, Brian, you got something that you wanted to cover before we started the live show?
Yeah, it should only take about a couple of minutes at most. I'm just going to share my screen, Nathan, if that's okay with you. I won't be putting on any YouTube videos or anything like that.
Yeah, it's fine.
Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Ask first. Share screen. Share. Okay, you should be seeing my screen now. Okay, you've all seen this before. I've showed you this before, and I'll show it in a minute. For to give a bit of background to people who are listening, Rumpus is at present, he's about to do the Bedford Levels observation again. Now, I don't think he's doing it in the same spot as Samuel Rowbotham and Wallace did it, but he's doing it in a similar spot, I think. But he is doing it soon, in the next 5-6 weeks. So if anyone wants to support him, I'm sure that there is a way to support him there, if anyone feels like doing it. But I heard about him doing this on Jose's, and I asked Jose to ask him from the chat what would happen if he found out that if through his investigation that it was flat, that he couldn't find any curve. And Rumpus's response to me was that if he doesn't have to tip down the camera lens, if he doesn't have to bring down the camera lens onto one of the markers at a distance, if the markers are in a direct horizontal from his camera lens, then he said he'll jump into the canal. He said was his response. And that was straight away to me begging the question, because the truth is that over distance things do change in angular size and they do naturally dip, especially if you're making a parallel. Now, I contacted Rumpus yesterday and I had an hour and 45-minute conversation with him. And unfortunately, my internet went off before I got to finish it, but we got through the main parts of it. Now, I contacted him and I said to him, Rumpus, during the Bedford Levels thing, the original one, I said Samuel Rowbotham proved angular size change, and that's how he won the bet. Now, it was strange because as soon as I mentioned Samuel Rowbotham, there was only me and Rumpus on the call. I didn't record it. As far as I know, to the best of my knowledge, Rumpus didn't record it. But straight away, he said that Samuel Rowbotham was a charlatan and a fraudster. Now, we were only talking there a while ago before the show about how he's kind of given himself what's the words I'm looking for, Nathan, where he was kind of giving himself permission to stay. It's like giving yourself permission to stay believing in the ball. If you keep on telling yourself that somebody who is a famous flat earther or some flat earth person or whatever, if you keep telling yourself that they are or were or whatever a total charlatan, then that means that everything got to do with them has to be wrong. And so I said, I looked past that. I just wanted to get into the detail of the thing, but it was just strange that he said that, because it was only me and him there. Why did he have to support his belief system that much? It didn't seem very logical. But I said, look, I said what Samuel Rowbotham did was that he noticed that things were dropping in the distance, and he said to prove that this wasn't Earth curve, he said that what he would do is he'd line up the crosshairs of his telescope with the first two markers, and he said if the other markers dropped away after that, he'd concede that it's Earth curve. But he said if he can make all the markers line up in a straight line once he lined up the first two, then that meant that it was flat, and it was an effect of perspective, basically because of parallel, right? Because all the heights were being taken off of the markers were being taken off of the canal, and a canal is water. water is flat. Now, Rumpus was under the impression that Samuel Rowbotham, basically, what he did is he looked across very low to the water, looked across the water, and he was trying to say it was all flat and it was only all miraged and whatever else. And that Wallace won the bet because he was up high, and he went by going up high above that bit of a bit of refraction that he could prove that it was supposedly curving. Now, I heard the complete opposite. And even Jaron Campanella did a whole thing on it a couple of years ago about what Samuel Rowbotham did. And there's conflicting stories there. But I said, look, Rumpus, I'm going to show you this effect. And I'm going to show it here. I'm just going to take off the sound. Press play on it. And I said, I'm going to show you this effect. This is something that I have shown before, where I make a parallel with the floor here. So now I just showed that I'm using a plumb bob function on an app I have. I'm using an iPhone 5, so it's level flat on this side, the side down here at the bottom. So I'm making sure that I'm making a parallel with the floorboard I'm on. So whether that floorboard is inclining or declining, it doesn't matter, because the center of my lens is inclining or declining at the exact same ratio, let's just say. Now, that's exactly the same thing as taking a heights off of water, because water is flat. So you're taking heights off of water for markers, that means you're making a parallel with the water, okay? So my point to Rumpus was, look, if you're going to go off in a few weeks' time and do this thing, I was basically trying to lend him a hand. I was going to say, not a hand, but kind of say to him, look, if you're going to do this thing, you're going to have to take this into account. Because if you're going to ignore this, then you could go off and do all this stuff. And if you ignore this effect, you can go off and do all this stuff and do your whole observation and then claim globe. And I can show, or someone else can show this exact effect, and all your work would be for nothing. And he didn't know what I was talking about. He had heard about an older version of what I did with wooden blocks that he said was debunked, right? Which wasn't debunked. And I said, look, leave me show you what I'm going to show you. So I started playing this for him after I explained to him why I'm using the plumb bob function, why I have to make a parallel. And I'm showing how I'm moving away here. There's two black lines. There's one above the crosshairs and one higher again. Okay, so just the one above, let's go back slightly. You can see, even if I go back even slightly more, you can see it's a good bit above the crosshairs. Now, as I move it away, right, due to perspective, right, it starts to drop. Now, it's not really dropping. Yeah, I have a laser beam there now. I'm just going to show. This is from this unit I have to the right of me there. It's a laser beam coming out of it. And so I'm showing that laser beam is sticking to this black line at the top, and this other black line was above the crosshairs here. So I showed this to Rumpus, and I showed him how, as I move this back, the laser light appears to drop. It's only appearing to drop. It's not actually losing any height. It's just appearing that way. So as it goes back, it appears to drop. And so did the black lines, they appear to drop. Rumpus hadn't seen this before, and Rumpus admitted, I just pause it there. Rumpus admitted that, yeah, we went through it, and he admitted that it seemed that everything I was showing there was legit. There was no messing around going on, and I was given two proofs of perspective. And he said, yeah, but that's just perspective. And I said, yeah, but I said, what I'm showing here shows that things will drop in the distance. So when you're going to do your Bedford levels thing, if things are dropping in the distance and you don't take this into account, then this could be the very reason why things are dropping. And I said, because you're going to make a parallel. It's about making a parallel. And he did not understand the parallel aspect. I tried my best to get into his head. He did not want to hear it. He didn't want to talk about it. He said it's silly. He just would not hear any of it. He did not understand why parallel is important. My point being is that because I'm using a hard surface, I have to make, to show this effect on a hard surface, I have to make a parallel with that surface. So consequently, when I'm making to make a parallel with that surface, that surface has to dictate the degree, the angle. So if that surface is inclining or declining, and I use a clinometer on my phone, then my clinometer might show a level, but that level won't match the incline or decline of the hard surface, whether it be a floorboard or a table or whatever. So if I don't allow the hard surface to dictate the parallel, I won't be able to show the effect. So people thought they were debunking this thing I'm showing here because they were using a clinometer and showing that when they level their own camera on their own phone with the clinometer app, that what was happening is that things were they weren't getting this effect, because they weren't getting the effect because they were focusing on the tops of objects, not focusing on the surface they're using. Now, when people are going to when Rumpus is at the canal, he's going to be getting a parallel off of the canal, water of the canal. Now, that is not going to have an incline or decline too much. It's going to be very, very small if it does, because it will have some movement, but there'll be a small decline in it in one direction or the other. But the point is that he's going to be working off a flat surface. And this proves, because I can show it over on a flat surface, this proves that what he's going to do and the measurements he's going to take off the water will be off of a flat surface. Now, there's other claims out there put out by Jesse Kozlowski doing a thing over a lake. He did two different things over a lake where he showed a marker at one side of the lake, and he's using a theodolite at the other side of the lake. And he's saying the two of them are exactly the same height, and how one of the marker at a distance appears to have dropped below the crossing of the theodolite. And George Netchuk has done something similar over a lake as well, only recently. And then you have things like Miles Davis from Traprain Law looking in the distance, seeing a bridge that's at the exact same elevation as him, above sea level, appearing to be higher than a hill in the background that appears to be, or to basically at the same height as a hill in the background. Now, what people not take into account, let's just say what Miles Davis's observation, is that his height and the height of the bridge and the height of the hill are all taken off of mean sea level. And you have people like Zanuck out there who are talking about how two different aeroplanes at the same altitude, right? One can be looking at the other, and the one that they're looking at appears lower, right? But that's this effect again. But both those airplanes, their altitude, right? Although their altitude, how they're holding their altitude is from air pressure, but their height is taken off of mean sea level. So they're making a parallel with water. That's what they're doing. When people are taking a measurement of height or altitude, they're making a parallel with water. So water is always flat. So I'm showing this effect happening over flat. Now, I don't know how they're going to get this effect. I don't know, how they think they think when they see this happening, that's Earth curve. When things appear to have dropped in the distance, that's Earth curve. So I showed then, after showing this video, I went through the stills here with Rumpus. I'm just going to make this slightly bigger. And I'm going to show everyone something that they haven't seen about from this before in a second. I went through the stills and I showed I have a red line here coming out of the crosshairs. And as I go down through the stills and I bring in the laser, I put a yellow line at the top of the laser. So I go back on the stills as we take in stills as it goes back, and you can see that the laser dot appears to get closer and closer to the red line. Now I couldn't push it back any further with my hand. And on top of that, I didn't really want to, because the further I go back, the more excuses there can be about how my floor may not be flat and whatever else. It gives the ball side anything they need just to hand wave it away. Because I'm already listening to people trying to say that I didn't calibrate the app beforehand and all the rest of it. And these people are completely ignoring the laser, this kind of thing. So they're just looking for reasons. With anything we do, they look for reasons that anything they can come up with to hand wave it away and not have to deal with it. So what I'm showing here is two independent proofs, maybe three if you include the card reference point at the back, showing that things appear to drop as they over a distance. Now, Rumpus agreed with everything. He went through, he allowed, and he listened, and he spoke with me, and he agreed, that what I'm showing here is definitely happening, right? But there was two problems. One, he said that I was completely level, that the floorboard and the camera and everything was completely level. And I said, no, they're parallel to each other, but there's no guarantee they're level, and that's why I'm using the plumb line function and not the clinometer function. Because if you make a parallel, you have to make a parallel. And all these people who have all these things, just like Zanuck, saying there's two airplanes of the same exact altitude and one appears lower to the other when they're looking at each other in a distance. Yeah, because they both have their altitude taken off of sea level. So they're both they're making a parallel with sea level. So that is a natural effect. Things get smaller smaller in the distance, and they do appear to drop, right? But the second thing, but he wouldn't accept or talk about the parallel issue. But the second problem was that he said, no matter how far I'd move this back, the red laser dot would never go below the red line here. I said it would. Eventually it would, because, I mean, you're going to have, the further you move that back, the more angular size change is going to happen. So you're going to have more, you're going to have a bigger view, right? So that can't say the same, like that is not going to just get down to that red line and stop. I mean, the further, if I could move that back 20 foot, then that red dot would definitely be down here low where I'm showing my cursor here, if people can see it, would definitely go down below this red line. And he wouldn't agree with this. And that's kind of the point where the call ended up finishing, because I lost my internet. Someone plugged it out on us. But what happened, what the biggest problem was...
Brian? Oh, we lost you for a second there, Brian.
Oh, sorry, am I back?
Yep, you're back. Loud and clear.
Yeah.
We only lost you for a couple of seconds, don't worry.
Oh, okay. Basically, what I'm showing here is just that the Rumpus was arguing that this red dot would never go below this red line, no matter how far back I would move the piece. And I said to him, my argument was, Rumpus, you're basically trying to say that things will stop changing, which is impossible, right? You're saying horizons don't happen.
Say that all again.
He said,
hold on. You roboted through that. If you could just concisely summarise your argument again, the most important bit, because you roboted when you summarised your argument.
Okay, I will. Yes, thank you. Thanks, Nate, for letting me know. Rumpus was saying that this, no matter how far back I move cardboard here, that red dot would go below the red line I have here coming out from the crosshairs. And I said it would. I said, if that didn't happen, I said, Rumpus, that would be like you saying, I'd be like Rumpus saying that angular size change would stop at a certain point. I said, that's like saying, denying that there's such a thing as an horizon, because that's what happens with the horizon. Everything shrinks into that point. And he said, no, I'm not saying that, but he said that the red dot would stop below the red line, not go below the horizontal of the crosshairs. This is basically what he was saying. So what I have here is I got these two stills. So this is just before I moved up. This after I moved it back a little bit, but hopefully you can see. I try and come in. You can see the yellow line here is above the crosshairs. It's just underneath of that black line there. And here is the second still when I moved it back. Right now, the yellow line is still at the bottom of the black line, but now it's underneath it. So I go down, above it, underneath it, above it, underneath it. So Rumpus is trying to say that even though this black line here is dropping below the crosshairs, that no matter how far back I bring this, that other black line and this red dot won't. This is what he's trying to say. So he's completely ignoring this, and he's ignoring the fact that wouldn't listen to anything to do with the word parallel. He's ignoring that. But I don't understand the logic how this red dot will not go below and this black line won't go below this crosshairs when this other black line did. Look, there it is, above, below. So that's all. That's the conclusion of it. Hopefully it wasn't a letdown. But
that's perfect.
I'm just going to share my screen again.
No, that's
Funny
perfect.
thing is, that's the same argument I had with Sly. With Sparkane.
Yeah, I've been having it with Sly Sparkane myself. He was
You're breaking up a bit, Brian. It was Hold on a second, everyone. You're breaking up towards the end of your presentation. We got 99% of it, though, so don't worry. But it is going to be my opportunity to round out this live show. So I'll say with that, a huge, massive, enormous thank you, first of all, to Brian for making that presentation. But, of course, a massive thank you to all of you in the Nathan Oakley 1980 live stream audience. If you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, this is where we bid you farewell if you are watching live. I've been Nathan Oakley. Stay tuned if you're watching on a premiering stream, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!